Love's in need of love today. Love's in need of love today. Don't delay. Do not delay. You do not need to wait 11 more days to realize the truth of who you are. That we rise in consciousness each and every moment, that we understand and know that love is what we are, who we are, how we serve. And when I was contemplating this song, you got to know, like, I love Stevie. And I believe that Stevie is divinely inspired. And the music and the lyrics of so many of his songs are just amazing. And I'm like, but Stevie, does love have a need? What is love's need? If love is everything that there is, and that hate that's going around is really a shadow and nothing at all, then what does it need? What does love need? Love needs us. What do we do when there is a need of somebody who we love in our lives? They have a need. What do? We recognize it. And we meet the need. Do we not? And so love's need is for it to be recognized in every single moment, every single breath. And when that hate seems to be going around, our job is to see love. Our job is always, if what I'm perceiving, if what I'm seeing sure doesn't look like love, then it must be a cry for love. Because there's only ever one thing going on, and that's love. And our misperception, our perception of a shadow that is other than love is really our role is to meet it with love, with kindness, with compassion. Hey, what's going on here? What's going on here? Because I know this isn't who you really are. There must be a reaction or something going on. So how can I love you? And how can I remind you who you are? That's what our role is. And that's challenging sometimes, is it not? And so this is our conversation today. It's really fun to light the candles, but it's an entirely different story to live it, to be it, in this experience of life, no matter what's going on. It's beyond condition. It's unconditional. And that's what we're here to be and do. And what I wanted to share with you, so we stayed on this for a moment because I wanted to unpack the song a little bit. But this is a picture of a blade of grass. And I want to share, let's call it a parable or a story, a teaching story with you about this blade of grass. I did not take that picture. I could have. There's lots of grasses around here. But this picture, somebody found for me, and I'm really grateful they did, because I typed in, I said, find me a picture of a blade of grass that's casting a shadow. So that's what this picture is. You may not see the shadow, but I'm going to invite you to pause with me and listen to this story. You can close the body eyes if you wish, if that helps. But what I want to share with you is that there is an ancient forest on our planet. A forest so high in a rugged mountain valley, and so rugged that no one has ever been there. Unknown to the minds of humanity, life goes on in that forest. Deep within the heart of this forest, this morning, a little tiny blade of grass seemed to be tossed by an unseen wind. As it was tossed for just a fragment of a moment, so subtle and soft was this wind, that as the sunlight played against this blade of grass, it cast the smallest of conceivable shadows on a stone, just a little bit away from the blade of grass. No one noticed. The shadow had no effect. The rock didn't even notice. No one on the planet noticed. No one in any of the heavens noticed, except me. I needed something to build a story around. That tiny shadow cast by a little blade of grass, momentarily wiggling in a wind in some remote forest, it has virtually no effect on the turning of the planets, the creation of new suns, and certainly not one trace of effect on how deeply loved you are, how deeply loved we are by God. So that little shadow is what we have given power to. It seems to be able to obstruct the truth within us from being lived. And for the moment, we gave that tiny little shadow power. In that very moment, fear was born. Fear is always a contraction from love. Fear is always a contraction away from love, and fear makes you smaller than the blade of grass that momentarily seems to cast a shadow, and therefore obstructs our recognition of the warmth of the sun that bathes us always. When we resist healing, when we struggle to learn to speak our truth, rest assured something has occurred just prior to that. What is it? It's our decision to believe that the shadow is all powerful. And if you heal, if you grow, if you change, if you let Christ live in you, that the little blade of grass and the tiny little shadow it creates for a very temporary moment will come and punish you and crush you. If you can truly take this story into your being and recognize the utter laughability of such a belief, you will never again fear fear. You will never again allow fear to master you and to direct the course of your life. Now, why would I start with that? We were feeling so good, weren't we? We were feeling so good about love and the song about love, but the love had embedded in it a need because hate was going around. And the question becomes, what is a shadow? So in this story, the shadow represents fear. But if we were to see a shadow, if we were to look at a shadow, we know that the shadow isn't real, do we not? We know that when we look at the shadow, like we're perceiving the shadow. If we try to touch it, it really isn't there. And that if we can begin to shift our consciousness and go, oh, I'm seeing a shadow, and that shadow is some sort of fear that has taken some sort of power over me, that I've given it that power to somehow believe that it's something, when in truth, it's nothing. Is the shadow not just an illusion? You see, if we say love is all there is, and if we really believe it, then we cease giving power to the fearful shadows that come up in our lives. Now, being in this human experience, we tend to have similar shadows. We did a prayer class yesterday. We did a prayer training for the new prayer chaplains and for the existing prayer chaplains. And in our prayer process, all we're ever doing in prayer is shifting from the shadow of fear and turning to the light of love. In every teaching, you will always find that in the spiritual awakening, there's ever only two choices. I always like to say it's a binary proposition, and you got about a 50% chance of guessing right. It's either going to be fear or love. That's it. We're guaranteed 50% success. just right out of the gate. I mean, that's pretty good. Those are pretty good odds, I mean, for not doing anything but making a choice. But when you bring your attention and your awareness to it, guess what? Your chances increase that you will more and more see, and behold love. And as you contemplate on love being the essence of your being, guess what? You're going to extend more love. Like unto our Creator, you will begin to create from love. Here's another really awesome thing. It's the only thing that truly creates. It's the only thing that is lasting and everlasting. It's evergreen like the wreath upon our altar. It's always true. And the shadow brought to the light of that love just disappears into the nothingness from which it came. Have you ever awoken in that way to a fear, something you were afraid of? Like when I was a little girl, I shared a bedroom with my sister, and we had green shag carpet. You can probably guess about how old I am based upon that green shag carpet. But when the lights went off at night, I was convinced that that carpet turned into alligators. And if and when I had to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night down the hallway, I had to get past those alligators. And I believed that. I could literally fly over those alligators. That's how afraid I was. I went so fast to get past them. But the minute I turned the light on, guess what it was? Green shag carpet. That's how powerful our thoughts are and our beliefs. That's how powerful it is. But as we mature, and as I matured, I knew that when the lights went out, that it was just green shag carpet. And I could set that aside and it scared me no more. But then the closet, oh my God, that was really scary because it looked like people were in there, you know, with the clothes hanging. But as I matured, I knew that wasn't true. And no longer was I ever afraid of the alligators or the scary monsters in my closet. And as we mature, we can mature beyond the idea through our awareness, through our spiritual practice, through coming together, through our Advent practice, to bring the light to the areas that we're so convinced are shadows that are real and powerful in our lives. What I have shared recently is that we are all so very courageous for coming here and being here, for having raised our hands as eternal, evergreen beings and saying, send me, I'll go, and I'll remember the truth that only love is real. Send me. And we just fell asleep and forgot, but we're maturing and remembering that we did raise our hand and that that is our call today, and that if we perceive that hate is going round, that the only answer is love, and that what seems like hate is just a call for love. That's it. What else have I got here? The spaciousness. This is the spaciousness of love. I'm so grateful for Reverend Ann for coming up with this theme for us, the spaciousness of Advent, that with each candle that we light, we practice in the same way that we lovingly hold space and center in that consciousness and invite and invoke the Christ quality of love, that we may be more Christ, which is all Christmas is. More Christ. The Mass means more Christ. And so that's what the spaciousness of love is. and you see when I said that everything is love, or it's a call for love. Love doesn't shrink away from the shadow or hide from it. Love doesn't demonize it. Love doesn't need to do any of those things. It doesn't need to puff itself up and make itself bigger. It doesn't need to war against the shadow. No, love, being bigger than the shadow, knowing the shadow is nothing, is just an illusion. It embraces everything. That our pathway is a pathway not of avoidance, but of an embrace. And that as we embrace the things that seem like shadows in our lives, those shadows become the gifts that bring us home. They become the areas of our woundedness and our reactionary way of being that we can embrace and bring home to the light so that we can see, oh baby, it was nothing. It was green carpet, not alligators. You're safe. It's okay. So love embraces all things, and it trusts all things. It trusts that those shadows are the perfect shadows to carry us home. You constructed the story yourself. I made up the alligators. We make up the scary thoughts that we have, and we've projected them into the world, and so it just looks like it's real because the world is projecting it back to us. But that's why collectively we come together to embrace everything, to trust all things, and to allow all things. Because if I'm fighting against it, I'm constricting. I'm giving it power. But if I can allow the love of spirit to be what I'm channeling, it's what transforms and transmutes everything. It's how we become the transformational agents for change in our world. So you might say, well, what is love? I was really bummed out when I read this. In A Course of Love, which is said to be a continuation of A Course in Miracles, so it's a channeled work attributed to Jesus. It says what love is cannot be taught, but you can be taught to see it everywhere because it already exists. You see, we've conditioned ourselves not to see it because we're focused on the shadows. We're focused on the shadows. And what we focus on, my loves, this is the way it works. What we focus on increases. This is our spiritual teaching. So we turn from the fear and the shadows, and we turn to love. When I'm looking this way, it's all I can see. But when I look this way, I begin to see the light shimmering, and I begin to see that I am not alone in this consciousness of love and that it is all power. And so you don't need to study love. It's what you already are. You can't really take a class on it. I mean, we could try, but you already are love. And you can feel it, and that's when you know it. Because we have chosen fear so many times, think of the news and all the ways that we choose fear. Think of the stories that we tell of the ways that we're struggling. And we name it a whole lot of different things, don't we? Don't we? I mean, we're so creative. We just proliferate what is just fear. We call it anxiety. We call it depression. We call it, what else do we call it? Help me out here. What do we call, what are the other things that we name fear and fearfulness? Judgment. Fear, yes, thank you. What else? Lack, limitation, unworthiness. They won't like me. I'm not good enough. Shame. Yeah. Pardon me? Suicide. Yeah. Regret. So we've labeled things, we've labeled it so many different things that we forget that its root cause is fear. It's fear, it's the shadow. Feels real, looks real, we've made it real. But the minute that we begin to realize it's a shadow and not real, we can make another choice. And it says here that but because you have not properly recognized fear as nothing, you have not properly recognized love as everything. So the same thing that we have done with fear, we've got the 50-50 chance. We name love a whole lot of different things too. Compassion, kindness, joy. What are some other things that we call love? Peace, generosity, empathy, contentment, acceptance. I merged two words. Acceptance, kindness, calm. What else? Love. Abundance, joy, hope, laughter. Yeah, those are the things that are real. And so since we've named it all these different things, we forget that there's just two choices ever. Two choices ever. So our task becomes not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all of the barriers to love. Our task is when we perceive something that seems like a shadow, how can we love? How can we embrace? And within us, what are the barriers I have built? And then that becomes my pathway of healing. Please take a breath here. This is good news. This is a good reminder at a crucial time in our lives, in the world. And it takes a spiritual power and strength to be the voice for God, the voice for love in the world. And love, my friends, is always a majority. We might think, oh, there's more of that shadow stuff going on. It's nothing, remember? It went into the nothingness from which it came. But love is all power. So every illusion is just one of fear. And so we turn to, how do we then be the presence for love? How do we show the world who we are? And it says, by this everyone will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another. The commandment that Jesus came to proclaim is, love God and love yourself as you would your brother and sister. That we are here to love one another. And we do that, I think, really well at Christmas time, don't we? We think of all the people that we love, that we appreciate, and we make sure that somehow, in some way, that they know that. But what our task is also to recognize the cries for love as well, and to pray to meet the need of the cries for love with the only thing that we can, love. So Charles Fillmore says that we develop love in our heart by asking daily that the infinite love of God be poured upon us. And that's what we do with our practice, our Advent practice. We humble ourselves. And we go before the altar, and we place all of the shadows that we have collected, shadows from the past, shadows from the future, fears, regrets, worry, anxiety. And we place it upon the altar so that it may be showered, I hear rain, it may be showered with the love of God, that it may be poured out upon us, in us, through us, in perfect ways. Myrtle Fillmore says that love is the great harmonizer. It takes all of those threads of the shadows that have been surrendered and released upon the altar, and it harmonizes it in perfect ways through the power, through the strength of spirit. And the revealing word says that divine love will establish us in fearlessness and courage. Anybody here need some fearlessness or some courage in their lives? Yeah? You've got something that is going on in your life that may be challenging. Might make your knees shake a little bit, the thought of it. But divine love establishes us in fearlessness and courage, for God gave us not a spirit of fearfulness, but a power and love and discipline. I think sometimes we think that love is frivolous, but it's so powerful. It shifts and changes everything for good. And finally, it is time for us to be reborn into the loving and innocent being that God created as you. That's what we're doing this season. Anybody willing to be reborn? Anybody willing to be reborn into the loving and innocent being that God created us to be? How many of you believe you're innocent? I had a friend who used to wear a t-shirt and it always said, "Not guilty." Fear will tell you you're guilty. But we're practicing beholding one another in life and love with innocence. Our country was founded on that, a presumption of innocence. It is so easy to proclaim the innocence of a baby. A baby prophesies to save the world. But the invitation is for each of us to gaze into that manger and that scene where everybody came from all over to recognize the incarnation of love, where all the angels came and said, "Fear not, carry on, birth love." And that wise men came from afar to bring and bear gifts. And that the shepherds and the animals all became still and silent, and everybody looked into that nativity scene, that first one, and they looked into the manger. And back then, okay, we saw the Christ child, but man, he gave us a great example, and he's like, you're now to gaze into that manger and see your own face, and to see it with innocence, and to have an expectancy this time of year that you're birthing more Christ in some way in your life. That's what this season is about. And I say all of life is expecting you to do this. All of life is pregnant with this expectancy. All of life is whispering, "Fear not." All of life is waiting for you to awaken to the innocence that you are as God created you. You're not making yourself that way. God created you that way, and you can't mess with what God's done. No way. Cannot do it. You can try. We've given it a good try. We've tried real hard. But I'm here to say you can't. You can't add anything, and you can't take anything away. So quit trying. Let life love you That's all it's doing. It's loving you. It wants to. It's giddy about it. It just can't wait to love you, to hold you, to be the breeze upon your face, to awe you with the wonder of its beauty, to feed you, to clothe you, to inspire a passion within you to give of it. Life is not selfish with us. Let us not be selfish with life or one another. Let us be the givers of this love everywhere we go. You got 11 days. You got 11 days. I went down the street, at the end of my street, I'm like, there were all these pretty things going on, and then there's this huge clock with a countdown, 11 days. It doesn't have just the days, it's got the hours, the minutes, and the seconds. And when I first saw it, I went, oh my God, I've only got 11 days? And now I'm like, oh, today's the day. Today's the day. And tomorrow, and the next day, moment by moment by moment. I can be in the joyfulness. I can let go of the shadows that we've made Christmas to be, and the ways that it pulls at us. So pause and take a breath with me. Somebody said, you're talking about love today. You always talk about love. There's not that much. I'm like, love's more complicated than you think. I said that. And I'm like, oh, no, it isn't. It's just being who we are as God created us. So our Advent practice, and everybody's going to get a little card as you go on your way out. And, I don't know where my card is. There it is. And there's a feather to remind me of something. We had this feather yesterday in our class, and it was to remind us to be light, like a feather. I think that's what it was for. Is that what it was for? That's what I remember. Then I remember being a kid and practicing levitating. Stiff as a board, light as a feather. Anybody ever do that with the fingers and try to levitate? So be light. Not only be the light, but lighten up. Because you know what? We're meant to be joyous and happy and free.